Welcome, everybody, to another episode of Mr. Mikhail's Manor of Mischief, Magic, and Mystery. I am your host, Andrew Mikhail, and welcome back to the 6M podcast. We are on episode 7 after a little break. I know some of you guys have been asking where the hell I've been, what I've been up to, why I've been so quiet, and hopefully this podcast will break the silence that you all have been waiting for to be broken. Sounds good? Sounds good to me. So without further ado, let's get some announcements out of the way so we can head right into this meaty podcast. The first announcement goes for you, the listener of this podcast. Chances are, if you're hearing this, then this applies to you, so please listen closely. I have been getting some emails from my distributor, my online distributors, aka wherever you're listening to this from, and basically what I need you guys to do is, whether in one take or in increments, if you guys are listening to the podcast, please do me the favor and listen to the full episode if you can. Like I said, if you cannot, try and finish it off whenever you get a chance. Other than that, please rate and subscribe the podcast as well. That will not only show that you guys are engaged, but also interested in the podcast enough to, rate or comment about the whatever the show is about, or your thoughts on the show, whatever, pretty much. And that also will tell my distributors or the algorithms or whatever that this podcast is worth a damn, because honestly, we're at episode 7, and I really thought that this show would not have many listeners whatsoever, but honestly, this is actually going pretty well, and I would like to see where it can go, considering that this is all a part of a grand plan, and this podcast is not going anywhere as far as, canceling it or whatever, because this is all going to help bolster another aspect of my profile or portfolio, or fucking forgive me for saying this, but brand. So I would really love the support. I know a lot of you guys are casual listeners, but if we can push over that little cliff and get you guys as subscribers, supporters, whatever you want to call it, fans, that would not only help me with the podcast, but it's going to help what's to come as well. So that's it for podcast announcements. And now it's time to read some homemade ads, because this podcast at this very moment does not have a show sponsor yet, being that it is at the juncture that it is currently. So for those of you listening for the first time, I'm the, I guess you could say, owner of True Media Music, the guitarist and vocalist songwriter for Serpents US, which is a symphonic black metal, death metal, whatever band. And I usually take this time to just plug a little bit of what's going on. And big news so far. Today the podcast is dropping on February 2nd. And for anybody who has been following Serpents for about 10 years, they might already tell you that, February is kind of jokingly considered Serpents month, because we usually do a lot of big announcements or drop some songs or even albums in February of every year. because of this next little fact I'm going to drop right now. February 3rd, which is tomorrow, is actually the 10-year anniversary of the inception of the band, where it started, because 10 years ago today, on the 2nd, is the day I officially had left Oceano, and on the 3rd is the day that news went public, and I was already working on this project, which at the time was untitled, and it became to be Serpents. So a year later, in 2011, we dropped The Monumental Disillusionment on AOL's Noise Creep, which was about 9 years ago. And ever since then, we usually try and hit on the 3rd a big announcement or whatever. And this year will be no different. And considering that you guys are going to be listening to the podcast and not anything else, I like to, I guess, reward such, I don't know what you would call it, loyalty to, what I'm doing here. So the least I can do is give you guys a little bit of an exclusive announcement, because tomorrow the news should be starting to spread worldwide and through a lot of different media outlets. Big news for those of you who have been waiting since 2013 for a repressing of our first album, Born of Ishtar. Now, a lot of people have been buying these CDs through, I guess, trading groups or eBay or whatever, and they've been spending a crazy amount of money for secondhand or even bootleg versions of the album. But here's the difference. This is going to be announced tomorrow, that we are going to be releasing a pre-order for the Serpents Born of Ishtar reimagined vinyl. So this is going to be a vinyl record, and I changed the track listing just a little bit. I had to, quote unquote, reimagine it the way I pretty much wanted it. So it's like a director's cut, pretty much. Does that make sense? Using the same footage, but in a different sequence, so it kind of makes a little bit more sense to my original vision. So that's the same thing with the vinyl. The track listing's a little bit different, but I didn't re-record, any of the songs. And it has a different album art, different album covers. So it's a limited edition vinyl. 100 only will be printed. I stand by that. I'm not going to try this again. I'm not going to do different colors, variations. When I say this is it, this is it. So if you guys want, head over to weareserpents.bandcamp.com and order yours now. The reason why I do a pre-order, by the way, is mainly because I also need to help fundraise for things that are actually happening at the same time as these merch drops. So when I say it's a pre-order or whatever, and I need your guys' help, if this is something you guys want, if this vinyl is something you guys want, please jump on it. Because not only does it show us that, okay, there's a demand for this item, maybe we should try this and this, but it also helps fund the actual item itself, along with, whatever funds I can pull from not even working, but doing freelance work here. Some of you may know I produce bands, I do the podcast, I do designs, I do all kinds of stuff. So I don't have a job, I don't work, but, I'm paying for this stuff out of my own pocket. Now, with that being said, some of you might have already ordered, or pre-ordered some of those winter merch items that were on pre-sale about a month ago. And, orders were pretty slow for them, which is a bummer because I was actually really excited about releasing those items, the hoodie and the long sleeve. So being that we didn't have many orders, I really, really tried to push. And I ended up reaching out to our merch company, Merch Now, who have been amazing to us for many years. I think about maybe even 9 years now. And, times are changing. The industry is changing. The economy is fluctuating. So in return, a lot of these companies that, had more approachable rates for a DIY band or whatever, they have to adapt to survive, obviously. So, once we hit a certain amount of pre-orders, I said, okay, I'm just going to match this and get the items printed myself. I did that in hopes to shed some of the cost and go an alternative route from Merch Now, which I know I shouldn't have done, but I really wanted to make you guys happy. And now that you know the fact that I have these vinyls coming out with, again, no backing yet, that's a lot of money coming out of my own pocket, let alone some of the other things that are happening that you guys don't even know about yet, all coming from my pocket. And before you guys, scratch your head and ask, well, aren't there other guys in the band, this and that? Those guys contribute enough with their presence and their ideas and their companionship. And whenever there is something that we need to, rally together and buy, like a music video or stage stuff or whatever, those guys are more than willing to contribute. And that, I really appreciate and value them, not only for their contributions to this project, like on an emotional level, but also sometimes financially. But there's some things that I shouldn't bother them with because, we're not making money. They're not making money. This is like a 10-year long passion project. And I don't believe in bothering them for the money because they don't have it. And if they do, I would hope that they would offer up, some sort of whatever if they had the money. But I'm not expecting them to do such a thing because we're all hurting, So I don't even know where I was going. Oh yeah, the merch. So I went an alternative route. I checked out, Reddit. I'm a big Redditor lurker. And, I saw a website being brought up here and there. And I'm not going to name drop the website because, I don't want anybody diving in. I don't want anybody poking the company or reporting them and shit. Let me just say, if it sounds like a fake company or whatever, probably look into it. Look into their reviews. I will tell you this company had mixed reviews, but they were not an accredited Better Business Bureau organization. And, I put in a lot of money, hundreds and hundreds of dollars to fulfill just the clothing part of the merch. And in the middle of the night, I get an email saying, hey, your order's canceled due to suspicious purchase. We can redo it if you'd like. If you send your ID, your credit card information, blah, 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 blah. And I immediately was sketched out because what company is emailing you this stuff hours later at 2 a.m? And when I looked at my bank statement, I was missing hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of dollars by a company that I never bought from. So not only were they using a different name, but they took my money, didn't return it yet, and they're asking me to redo the transaction. And, I kind of had to take inventory here and dive in deeper into the company, so to speak. And, I looked on their Instagram and shit, and I found out basically that I had just gotten scammed out of hundreds and hundreds of dollars. So as you would do, as I did, I called my bank immediately and, froze my card. And thankfully I had one other card, right? Guess what? 2 days later, and keep in mind, I'm currently living off of one card. 2 days later, I get a goof, a goof charge from Netflix on my credit card. Here's the funny part. I don't have Netflix. I don't pay for Netflix. I don't know how this happened. So I call my bank, get that taken care of. Well, it's still in the air, just like the other charge. So they're still pending. But now both of my cards are frozen. I have no money. I have no way to make money or whatever. So it's kind of a shitty time, and I pulled the plug on the merch. That's why I'm kind of getting into all this. I'm sorry, guys, if this is taking so long, but I did send an email to everybody who pre-ordered the winter merch. Please read your emails. I get too many texts, direct messages, whatever, asking me on specifics for it. Please just read the email and respond accordingly. I'm trying to hook you guys up. Everybody who ordered the winter merch, basically what I did is I canceled the winter merch and I said, okay, since you guys shown your support so early in a time where, nobody was supporting, I am sending you guys a free copy of the vinyl, autographed if you like, for free. So if you ordered the winter merch, look at your emails and let me know if you want to take advantage of getting one copy of the 100 vinyls of our most popular and requested and hard to find album. So I really, really hope some of you guys take advantage and call dibs on one of these vinyls, okay? So I'm going to keep going. One more announcement. Check out our Spotify. We got a really cool playlist up there. We're featuring, it's called EBY Metal at Renee ZZ. Fucking honestly, like no joke, I've been listening to this playlist, and Renee ZZ, I guess, I don't know how you would say it. Really big Instagrammer, YouTuber. He used to be in a deathcore band, I guess. Really nice guy. I talked to him, because anybody who puts us on like a notable Spotify playlist, I usually personally reach out to them and thank them for supporting us when they don't have to. So it really means a lot to me that he did that. So I'm featuring his podcast or his playlist on our official Spotify page. So if you guys want, please head over to Spotify, check out the playlist at our page at Serpents US. Again, Serpents US. While you're there, do me a favor, fucking follow the band, listen to some songs all the way through. Stop doing this fucking 5-second listen, then click or whatever. I get it. My songs are like fucking 10 minutes sometimes. I wrote it for you to listen, to vibe with, to fucking forget about everything else going on around you and dive in. Each song is a world to dive into, okay? I created them for you. All you have to do is take the ride. So help me help you. Check it out on Spotify. Check us out on Spotify. Follow us. Listen to some music. While you're at it, head to weareserpents.bandcamp.com. Pick up a CD. Pick up a vinyl. Pick up a t-shirt. I've got a lot of them. I've got a lot of shit. I've got one tarot card deck left. So if you want to grab some stuff, head to that head to our Bandcamp. I'm not going to repeat the link because I'm sure you guys are banging your heads on your steering wheel or desks. And also follow us on Facebook at We Are Serpents, Twitter at We Are Serpents, Instagram at Serpents Metal, and that's it for the Serpents ads, okay? Hopefully that wasn't too bad. I know I kind of went on a rant there, so it was kind of an ad, kind of a fucking announcement, and also, I don't know. Things have been pretty crazy. If you're listening to this podcast later on, you probably are listening to these episodes on a row or whatever. But, I haven't done an episode in 2 weeks because 2 weeks ago on this day was the last day of Winter Nam in Anaheim, California, for those of you who don't know where that is. And the week after Nam, not only was that a kind of, I don't know what you would call it, a depressing, or, I mean, I'll be honest with you guys, since that's what this fucking podcast is all about. Yeah, I was pretty depressed after Nam. But I guess the easiest way to say it is, and I keep fucking saying that, is that, oh my God, what the hell? Decompressing? I think that's what you would call it. Either way, I spent a week kind of coming down from the craziness that was my first NAMM. I would like to thank ESP Guitars, Seymour Duncan, Steinberg, Cubase, Line 6, Yamaha, Dunlop, Waves, SIT, Strings, Ernie Ball, Toontrack, Mesa Boogie, Mission Engineering, and I think that's about it. My bad. Oh, and Omega Cabs or Omega Enclosures, Fortin, Solar. Everybody was so nice, so approachable, so knowledgeable, and to be honest with you, I did not expect some of the treatment I received while at NAMM. I did expect, but for the most part, I was humbled and thankful for the opportunity, not only to represent ESP Guitars, but also to, I don't know, it's hard to explain, you're walking on the floor and next thing you know, and this happened, I was at the Shure booth in the basement where all the pro audio stuff is. Go figure, right? All of us fucking audio nerds have to be stuck in the basement with no light. But, I went down there and I was talking to some people at Waves. I had a great experience with, I think his friend, wow. I think his name is Nicholas. Yeah, I don't want to get his Nicholas. Good guy. Sorry if I name dropped you there. I feel like I just fucked up. Oh yeah, by the way, shout out to Enki Cases as well. I don't know the guy I was talking. What's his name? Is it David? I don't know. Either way, I was at the Shure booth talking shit, because, I'm a avid Sennheiser user. I used to be a sales manager for Sennheiser. So, I was kind of mulling around the booth, the Sennheiser booth, and they had all this like contemporary pop, rock, country stuff. Our band's playing, and they were the only guys pretty much in like full-blown suits, and they were running around like a bunch of executives and this and this and this and this. And I'm looking at them and I'm like, I used to be part of this team in one way or the other. And I wasn't vibing it. I have a couple friends at Sennheiser currently, and I love them for, supporting me, but they would never support a blackened death metal artist or whatever. A lot of those brands don't do that, because our genre is not marketable enough. But, I'm standing there in the booth trying to get the attention of, certain people. And, I'm being ignored, stared at. And keep in mind, it's a busy booth, but, I look the way I do. I dress the way I dress. And, I really got a bad vibe about that. And, it comes up to my next point. And I know I was talking about the Shure booth. Okay, so let me just speed through this. I'm so sorry, guys. It's been a while since I've talked to you. So basically, I'm at the Shure booth talking shit about Chicago because, Shure is from Chicago. So I'm schmoozing at the Shure booth about Chicago. A lot of shh. And next thing you know, I see Devin Townsend, and he's all, bundled up. You would barely recognize him because of how he was dressed and covered. And, I basically walked up to him and I was like, hey, like I was with my lady. And I told him, hey, we're excited to see you because I'm going to be seeing him in Chicago on the Empath tour, which is going to be fucking amazing. I got got tickets as a Christmas present, so I'm really excited. But, we talked to him, and oddly enough, he's like, do I recognize you from somewhere? Do I know you from somewhere? I said, oh, yeah, we were actually supposed to work together. And oddly enough, I told him the story, and he knew, he remembered. And he was super nice. And, I wouldn't have asked for a picture in a million years, but thankfully he was cognizant enough to be like, hey, man, you want a picture? I'm like, fuck yeah. So I took the picture, shook his hand, told him how much certain words he said over the years have really resonated with me as an artist or podcaster or whatever. And, he was really nice about it. And that was probably the nicest, genuine, whatever exchange I had at NAMM. And, I saw a bunch of friends in bigger bands and, old, tour buddies. And I'm just talking to Devin and like what stature he is in our community, our scene, and how he acted compared to some of the others. I was like, man, that's who I want to be. That's what I want to be like, And I got the cold shoulder from a few people. And honestly, I ran into some enemies at NAMM. And we had face-to-face conversations. And I don't think they're enemies anymore. If they want to still hold a grudge against me or hold a grudge against me for associating with people or whatever, but not like mad at me personally. Whatever. I'm cool. If you're cool, I'm cool. You know who you are. Let's leave it at that. But now let me get back to that Sennheiser whatever story. And I'm not just picking on Sennheiser, but the whole fucking weekend, I was getting looked at like I was scum by some of these like executive types. And I don't know if you guys remember, but I have this weird thing with authority or whatever. And whether I was at the hotel, which was kind of nearby the convention center, like I got a pretty good hotel right by, whatever. But on the way to Nam, coming from Nam, while inside of Nam, while trying to get lunch at Nam, while doing this, I'm getting dirty looks from these old suits that represent, this company, that company, this company. And it really not only chapped my ass because, I'm like, you don't know me. I used to be a corporate guy, and I still am at heart. I like business. I like the grind. That's a common, I guess, misconception about me is like, oh, he's black metal, DIY, like, But I love business. I love the hustle. I love the highs and the lows that come with business or sales or whatever. So if they would have asked me, what are you doing here? Okay, yeah, I'm representing this and this. Oh, okay. What else you do? I could have played it off and rubbed shoulders with these fucking people, but they didn't give me the chance to do so. Whether in the elevator, whatever. Like they looked at me like I was scum. And my lady will tell you otherwise because she thinks I'm a paranoid fucking nut job. And granted, I was on a lot of edibles and other goodness while in California, which made that totally worse, by the way. Totally worse. There were some times I was really high and I would go downstairs to pick up like my Uber Eats or whatever, and or just like a Coke from the vending machine, and I would get into these conversations with strangers, and I'm wearing like fucking pajamas and they're in suits, and I felt I had such panic because I was like, what if they know who I am? What if they tell on me? And it's just like, dude, weed is legal. Like, whatever, man. Like, I don't know. It was pretty funny. But back to my point, and I swear I'll wrap this point up with this next statement here, is this. The statement is simple. Okay? Granted, you represent a nice company. You dress nice. You came to the big show. But remember these words, businessman. You might make these products, these instruments, these whatever, speakers, plugins, whatever. But you're always going to need people to use it. Correct? Correct. So you might have the power, you might have the money, you might have the know-how, whatever, but your products will never be shit if people don't use it. Now, whether if it's me, whether if it's the next guy, whatever, that shouldn't be up to you. You should know everybody is a potential customer. Everybody is a potential endorser. Everybody has potential. Now, if you look at me like I'm a scumbag and I secretly play or love your products and actually advocate for your products on the public forum, you should probably be a little bit nicer just to people in general. I don't care if you're having a rough day. You do the same thing when you walk on the sales floor. Everything you've got in your heart, you leave that shit in the car. You put your fucking suit on. That's your game face. You walk on the floor. You better fucking show everybody some love if you want to succeed at your job. Because guess what? You show me love, I'm going to sit there and go, damn. Like, those guys are really fucking cool. I would love to represent them and their company. Now, granted, my stature, so to speak, fluctuates. Now I have a podcast. I have a band. I'm working on something at this very moment, which is why, another reason why I'm playing catch up is I'm working on something big. I'm working on a big pivot. Now, a lot of you might hear that word and think, oh, I think he's done. I think he's done with something. Whatever. I am preparing to make a big move this month. Big for me, not so much for you guys, but you will notice a change, a pivot in focus, in whatever, very soon. When that pivot happens, and I hope that good things happen from it, a lot of those people that treated me like shit or basically just brushed me off, even in conversation, I'll remember that. And that's just me. Imagine all the other people you do that to. It starts to add up, doesn't it? A lot of people start thinking about you, and then they go, oh yeah, he worked for that brand. Fuck that guy. Fuck that company. These guys were way cooler, blah, 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 blah. So I know that's a little bit of a rant and super ominous, but you know, it's true. And if everyone else is scared to say it, you know, based on fear for their own connections or endorsements or industry blowbang that usually occurs, cool. Refer back to this podcast if you're too chicken shit to speak up for yourself, because I'm not taking that. No, thank you. You treat me with respect as you would treat a customer. And if you don't treat customers with respect, get the fuck out of here. Go fucking, instead of going to a convention or a conference that, you know, really, it is a retail conference. I get it. You're trying to sell your products, but badge or no badge, you do not know who has buying power. And that's the thing, you know. Now, would I change some rules about NAM? Of course, or NAM. To be honest with you, I would only do public showings one day out of the 4 days, just because of how chaotic it is with people trying to handle business or people just simply trying to walk around and kind of schmooze with their friends and whatnot, or let alone professionals trying to try out instruments or whatever in a nice manner. You know, you got a lot of the guys from the public thinking it's Guitar Center, sitting on an amp or whatever for fucking how long, and it's like, okay, you know. So those are some things I would change about my experience at NAMM. Other than that, I had a great fucking time. You know, my bass player, Jake, and my guitarist, Miles, also ended up at NAMM. They were actually going first. I ended up, you know, I saw that and I was like, oh shit, let's get a trip with the boys. unfortunately our drummer, John, couldn't make it. He's a dad. He works a real job. We like to pick at him a little bit for his unavailableness, but I love him. I love the boys, Miles and Jake, and it was a really fucking cool time to spend, not gigging or preparing for a gig. It was nice to hang out with those guys. We got some nice fish tacos. We had some good smoke. And then that also marked the end of an era for some unhealthy eating habits of mine. And we kind of went really ham. Well, my lady and I. The other guys, I don't know what they did, but if you saw any of us in Nam and said hello, I honestly really appreciate you for doing so. It is quite the crazy atmosphere over there. So it was really nice to have a couple people be like, "Hey, you're Andrew, right?" And I was like, "Yes." This and this and this. I love your work, blah, blah, blah. Can I have a pic? And I was like, dude, you don't know how much that means to me. Granted, I know I might look like I have resting bitch face and I had on my cloak thing, but without friends or listeners or whatever, who the fuck am I? Who the fuck am I with it? So I really appreciated the people who took a break and said hello to me, whether big band or not big band. Really, really, really means a lot to me, and it was quite an eye-opening experience in more ways than one. So it was nice. But aside from that, took a little trip. Went to Manhattan Beach, I think. I wanted to show my lady Manhattan Beach and Venice Beach. So we went over there. Venice Beach was crazy as always. I don't think I've ever been to Venice Beach and it wasn't weird. Or I also haven't been to Venice Beach and have not been offered a mixtape. So fucking awesome. It reminds me of home, You're walking down the street, somebody's like, "Hey, listen to this." And I don't carry cash or anything, but they're like, "No, here, take this CD." And I'm like, I know what's up, man. They usually give you the CD and they're like, "Yeah, man, this and this and this." They're like, "Any donation is cool." And then you're standing there with the CD and dude, it's a great sales tactic. I gotta give it to them. But I was straight up like, nope, don't want it. And they looked kind of offended, but I know how it goes. Shit, my guitar player Miles on the way out of NAMM, God, I don't believe in God, but God bless his heart. He's a nice guy. If you guys have met Miles, you'll know he's the nicest guy of all time. As long as he has coffee and kratom. Same thing with me, I guess. But, he kind of got stuck with one of those guys and, they're going back and forth. So I started yelling in a foreign language, like shit like that. I'm like yelling at him to come on. And we kind of got him out of the situation, but, I think he gave him one final, "Hey man, no thank you. I'm broke. I'm a musician." Maybe the next guy will buy it, but we're all broke pretty much. If you see a musician, we're pretty much broke. But yeah, man, we went to Venice Beach. I took her to a nice drive in Hollywood. Ate at Mel's Diner, for those of you that know. It's kind of popular. Just like a straight up American old school diner. It's right across the street, well, pretty much from the Whiskey A Go-Go, the Rainbow, bunch of other places. So had the worst service there, and got pretty upset because of all the pent up aggression and disdain I had built up from Nam. But had a horrible experience service wise, but the food was good. And then we went on to our hotel at downtown, which again, being that it was California, I had such easy access to beautiful, beautiful assortments of marijuana. We are at the top floor of a known nice upscale hotel, and I'm high as shit, laying in bed, and I start having like a mild panic attack because I was like, oh shit, what if there's an earthquake? I was like, what the fuck am I gonna do? Do I run out naked? Do we run downstairs? Are we gonna make it downstairs? All these thoughts. Then I started thinking about coronavirus because it was like fresh. And, it says like Wuhan, China. And if you ever go to Nam, you'll see there's a lot of like Asian businessmen or companies from Asia or even China. Hell, I think even the symbol company Wuhan, I don't know, correct me if I'm wrong, please. I mean, is Wuhan from China? I know they make China's symbols. But I started having a panic attack. I'm like, what if we got infected? What if there's an earthquake? What if the plane were to crash on the way home? And what if? So eventually I got some sleep. We went for a little walk before it was time to go back to LAX, which, as you guys may know, can be quite the hassle, but we had a good day. Went to a nice coffee shop, whatever. And, we get on the flight, made it back home, had a horrible experience with Uber, of course. And a couple days later, or I think the next day, I saw that downtown LA had a fucking earthquake. Nothing crazy and like nothing that split open the fucking land. But they had an earthquake downtown LA the day after I slept there. And then I saw on the news that they started quarantining certain airports or whatever for coronavirus. And as everyone knows, a couple days later, fucking Kobe's helicopter fucking went down. So it was just like, not only did I feel justified in some of my paranoia, because my lady, thank the stars for her, because she keeps me in check a lot of the time. And my mind can go real far, but it's just very weird that all of those instances happened when I had inklings of some sort of thing. Because obviously, everybody's rebuttal to like anything flight related, they go, well, look at how many flights happen these times a day, or when's the last time you heard this, but I don't know if you guys remember, like a little bit about, well, shit, earlier in the month, there was that plane that got shot down over the Ukraine and all these other things. I was looking at, Facebook, and it's crash here, and I started getting nervous for the first time in my life, because I'll be honest with you guys, this is the first time in my life where I have something to lose. I told my lady the same thing. I'll tell everybody the same thing. For many years, I had a death wish. A lot of people ask me, why would you tour Russia or Eastern Europe or whatever? Go to war zones like Chechnya, shit like that. and whatever. And I tell everybody that's like, I had a death wish. I had nothing to lose. I'd rather die for music. And because honestly, back then it did mean a lot more than it did mean now, that it does mean now. And I was willing to die for it. You know, I don't know if I ever talked about this. Maybe I did, maybe I didn't. But, you know, there was a time when we were in Russia and we drove, you know, to the left is this part and to the right is Chechnya. And they were telling me, like, while the driver's going, whatever, 80, 90 miles an hour, we have to be careful because sometimes there's mines on the road because on the right is an active war zone. And, you know, everybody was sleeping except for me when our tour manager made that announcement. And part of me was just like, fuck it. I literally said that. I was like, fuck it. And basically looked ahead and saw if, as we were going 90 miles an hour, like, that could be a mine. Oh, that could be a mine, you know? And for the first time ever, I was kind of worried about, you know, anything bad happening because now I have so much to do and so much to live for. And it would really suck to go down like that, like Kobe or, you know, all these people getting sick with coronavirus and all this stuff. So, or even an earthquake. It's just very weird that I was that in tune to like things without being involved, you know? So, I don't know. Weird coincidence. What do you guys think? I don't know. But another thing that happened while I was kind of taking a little mental break from the podcast is that the Grammys happened, and a lot of people seem to be riled up about it. And excuse me if I'm speaking out of turn here, or if you guys are just so over it that you're like, oh my God, that was so last week. But I watched some of the performances from the Grammys, and I'm not going to get into the usual shit everybody wants to argue about the Grammys, but you know, I was following that drama, the drummer drama that was happening with Aerosmith, and how they basically told their drummer to sit this one out, and they had their roadie, their tech, yeah, that's the word, tech, fill in for the drummer of Aerosmith. And I watched the performance and I was like, whoa. I was like, oh, wow. And keep in mind, rock, heavy metal, whatever, we don't get a lot of chances in the public eye. Okay? Granted, Steven Tyler, I love Steven Tyler when he's just Steven Tyler. Like, I heard that Joe Rogan Steven Tyler episode. I'll watch some of his interviews. He's very interesting, almost as interesting as David Lee Roth, which also recently has been kind of catching some heat as far as his performance goes. But I was really disappointed to see that performance. It was very bizarre, very, very live, which is nice. But I think the Grammys did that shit on purpose, to be honest with you. I don't know. Maybe it's because Steven Tyler is a public figure and they're like, yeah, let's have him rock out. But that was just, dude, he was screaming. The whole time I was like, what is he on now? He looked like he was fucking on a bunch of shit. You know, the performance was out of sync, out of tune. Some of the guys looked pretty ghoulish. And again, I'm not very nitpicky, but god damn it, man, we don't have many fucking opportunities to make a point. And that was who they booked. That's who they had perform to represent us. And I know a lot of people hate on Five Finger Death Punch, and I don't have a problem with Five Finger Death Punch. Okay, like I know some of those guys. I've toured with those guys. Killer live band. Tool, killer live band. How many bands I can name right now? Fucking, how about Archspire? Fucking technical, they kill it. They're tight. And then you get a band like Aerosmith or whatever, and they give that performance and only furthers the industry's perception of, oh, these guys can't fucking play, or look at this shit. It's crazy, blah, 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 blah. Then you have everybody, singing Lil Nas X's praises and Lizzo's praises because she can play a flute or mime a flute. I don't know. I didn't really watch her performance because I do not like Lizzo at all. Just a personal preference. Don't like the music. But, Lil Nas X, I like, right? Even that performance was sloppy, live, off key. I mean, Billy Ray looked like he was deer in headlights, but people were ramping that performance up like it was legendary. Oh my God, did you see Lil Nas X? He killed it. Lizzo's flute solo was something to behold. And I'm looking, I'm like, that was just as bad as the Aerosmith performance. Nobody really did very well. I mean, I saw Billie Eilish's performance, and I love Billie Eilish, okay? I love her brother's album, Phineas. He was at Nam too. Phineas was at fucking Nam, and then he played the Grammys, nonchalant, like a couple days later. And they killed it. Billie Eilish and her brother, as they normally do. Watch any of her performances. They're great. They're visually great. Audio, fucking perfect. You can tell, it has some life to it. Because everybody wants to make a big deal about her vocal style. But but you can tell she's singing. Whatever vocal, if it's quietly, cool. At least she's not fucking miming. And if she is, good on her. Okay? At least she can still fucking do it tight. But another thing that happened because of this shit show of the Grammys is everybody started bitching about Billie Eilish winning X amount of awards, this and this and this. Why? Why do you care of that? Not only care, okay, but why are you so angry about this? Why? Honestly, out of all the pop albums I hear, and a little fun fact for you guys, every Friday, I don't know if all of you guys do this, but I mean, comment on the podcast if you do, but every Friday I roll through all Spotify, Bandcamp, and I look for shit that just came out that looks cool. So I look at the album cover first, look at, sales. I say, oh, this is pretty hot. Or streams. I'm like, oh, this artist is getting a lot of plays. I'll check it out. I'll check out new shit, whether if it's atmospheric funeral metal all the way to, pop or Russian pop or whatever. And Billie Eilish is one of the few albums out of recently that I was just like, this person is a pop star? Like a star? Like, I'm sorry. Taylor Swift can go fuck herself 10 ways to Sunday. I hate her. I hate her music. And I've heard nothing but horrible stories about her as like a person. And if that tarnishes my fucking standing in the industry, I could give a shit. I like real people who are, like I said, Devin Townsend, he's like huge in our community. Nice guy. Easy to work with, whatever. I hear nothing but good stories about Devin, along with some of the other masters in our genre. And, I hear about Taylor Swift and all people like her. And I'm not impressed. So when I hear a Billie Eilish, I go, wow, this is actual music. It's not, a repetitive beat that's just looped. So a 15-second beat looped for the whole song with a couple of key changes, and then they call it a smash hit. Like I heard a song the other day. It was like something pussy, and the first lyric was like, yeah, fuck me. I'm like, I guess the art of seduction in songs, or subliminal messaging or whatever, is gone, right? Because that's popular now. Fuck my pussy. I'm like, okay, cool. I feel weird listening to this, but I'm going to listen to it. And I listen. I'm like, cool. It's 15 seconds. It's a 15-second loop throughout the whole song. And then there's a random key change here and there. And that's a smash single. So I really respect what Billie Eilish is doing. And I'm really happy that she won so many awards. I'm also happy that Phineas won an award too, or many awards. I'm not sure what happened, but again, I've been pretty busy, checking out other artists, working on this Slayer cover, working on the vinyl release, you get my point. So it's kind of hard not to see your whole Facebook feed lined up with bitter metal people or bitter whoever bitching about, oh, well, they don't even show metal the respect it deserves, but they'll give this and this and this to Billie Eilish and whatever. And it all comes around. I mean, you want respect for rock and roll? Book a band that's solid, like a Five Finger Death Punch, right? Or a Bad Wolves, or even fucking like Nickelback, whoever is rock or metal that is like commercial, that's tight live, which is most of them. Put them on the stage. Put artists like Billie Eilish on the stage. You know what I mean? People who are tried and true, who can represent their genre, so that nobody's sitting there fucking bitching about, performance this, or next time don't do this, or this and this. Kind of like what I'm doing right now, right? But it really chapped my ass that a bunch of metal people were going after her. And I made a post, it was a repost from Typo Negative, one of my favorite bands. They posted a picture of her in October where she's wearing like a Rob Zombie, Cradle of Filth, Typo Negative like jersey. It's like a custom jersey, which I fucking love, and I wish I had it. But, I'm sure she knows what she's wearing, right? And if not, I'm sure she knows Rob Zombie or whatever. Either way, she's sitting there singing to like children and giving Typo Negative, Rob Zombie, Cradle of Filth crazy exposure with her just doing that. If it's a joke, if it's a fashion statement, whatever the fuck it is, metal should be rejoicing and holding her in high regard, just as they do with, whatever. I think it was like Selena Gomez or whatever. I don't know. Whoever was wearing like a Slayer shirt or whatever. The metal community should not be attacking people like that, because guess what? If we keep doing this and nitpicking about who listens to what and this and this and this, no one's going to want to represent metal. No one's going to want to be associated with metal. And guess what? Rappers and pop stars and whatever, they're the new rock stars because metalheads are so scared to tread certain waters that will lose credibility, so to speak. Credibility for what? Holding, the most brutal breakdown of this. Who cares? Fucking be happy that someone's, bolstering Typo Negative. Maybe some kid in that crowd is going to go, oh my God, I love Billie Eilish. She's my favorite. I love her fashion. I want to get that shirt. Oh, what is Typo Negative? Let me see. Oh, it's dark, depressing, brooding, kind of like Billie Eilish. Maybe I'll listen to this when I'm feeling aggro. It's like Billie Eilish whispers, right? Peter Steele kind of whispered or had like a real deep range. What's the difference? What, she looks prettier, so we have to hate her? Come on, man. Enough. And I read some article, I think from some metal site, and they had this whole thing where, is rock dead? 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 It's all I hear now. It's like, no, motherfucker. Rock is not dead. And I'm not talking just about this site. I'm talking all the people that took that article and used it as a launching point for their ideas on the state of things. But guess what? They're not doing anything to contribute to rock's or metal's longevity, livelihood. Everyone's just saying, oh, it's dead. It's dead. Might as well do this, or might as well follow this, or it's just drawing a bigger divide that doesn't need to be there. Rock is not dead. It will never be dead. People are just expecting too much out of rock. Does that make sense to you guys? I think people need to chill on the whole, like, oh, this band isn't very commercial. Same thing with Nam. I could have been, or shit, let's just say, Devin Townsend, the way he was dressed, he kind of like had this kind of real chill, I don't know, kind of looked like just kind of looked like a nomad, He had like a fucking military bag, military water bottle, he had his hat on, fucking baggy, whatever. It's like, if you were to look at him, you would not know all the things that he has done with his career and whatever. And the industry sits there, or the people, let's just say the Grammys or the Academy sits there and goes, ooh, yeah, he's not rock star material. It's like, but have you heard his music? He is a rock star. It's like, he doesn't have to have fucking purple dreadlocks or, oversized fucking animals on stage or miming this and this. He is who he is. And we accept him for that. Right? We don't expect him to fucking, start wearing Tap Out and fucking Affliction and whatever. We respect him and expect him to be who he is, as he is. Yet he is a major voice in the rock community. I don't know why people expect our community to be like Lil Nas X and fucking Aerosmith and shit like that. I don't know why. I don't know where it came from. Maybe it's these people who publish these articles or whatever, trying to wiggle their way into the mainstream, because obviously if you post the thing saying rock is dead, maybe a prominent rap artist or a prominent singer or country guy they're going to read that and they go, oh, it's not looking too good for rock. But I'm going to take the best part about rock and use it in my stuff because we're on the up and up now. We're the rock stars now, since apparently rock is dying, since it's coming from their community's mouth. So I'll take the best parts about rock and use it in my stuff. So that does further the agenda that rock is dying, because all of our best qualities are being taken by other genres, because we're okay with shitting the bed, apparently. We're okay with being buried by the times. You know? I'm not okay with that. And a lot of you might be saying, oh, well, you have a podcast, or you're going to do this, or you guys will see me pivoting a little bit. And you'll be wondering, what's the deal? And I'll tell you this. The music is so important to me that I am willing to adapt to survive in this industry, and adopting certain practices, viewpoints, whatever. But here's the thing. I'm doing these things while also trying to maintain the integrity of my art as a whole. Everything I do is for the music, even this podcast. I try and show myself a little bit better than I do on a fucking post, or if you're asking me questions directly on Messenger. This is better. I'd rather talk to you like this. And soon, you guys will have even more access to me as a person. Why am I doing this? Because I want the music to live on. I don't want to die off in the ways of the old school. And granted, some of those articles might be their olive branch to a lot of people like me as a wake-up call. But most of the people, they usually supplement the article with their own opinion, and usually the opinion is very negative and very dismissive of the current state of things. So my advice to the rock world, the metal world, is it's cool to hold on to the old school and the old ways of doing things, but because I love so many of these bands and my own music, I don't want to see us die off because we're so ignorant in holding on to the old ways that we all die off because we can't adapt to the new way of things. You know, perfect example, I made CDs, Temet Nose, not selling that great. Streams, great. Pestilence, I still have copies of Pestilence. I should have learned my lesson, but I was clinging to the old ways of doing things. CDs, oh, people want CDs. People like to appreciate the art, this and this and this. I lost so much money printing CDs for you guys, and I still have, CDs. Born of Ishtar, at the time, 2013, everybody was buying CDs. I wish somebody would have told me, hey, dude, it's over. Try something else. Perfect example, vinyls are very hot right now. And I cannot afford another loss. I cannot afford to keep losing. And thus, I'm printing vinyls. Oddly enough, vinyls are old school. So that's good for me and it's good for metal. But what happens next? What are you guys going to do on the next step? Everybody's still clinging to CDs. You're probably going to die off in the next wave. I don't want to die off. I'm here to stay. Hence why I keep hammering the thought to you guys. If you guys are with me, stick with me. because you're not going to see anybody like me. And that's a fucking promise. So if you like the way I talk, you like the way I think, and most of all, you like the music I make, fucking stick with me, and you'll see where I'm heading towards. And then now that you've heard this podcast, you will understand the decisions I make and the moves that I'll be making. And you will hopefully see it as contributing to the art, most of all. Most of all. Because honestly, this podcast, oh my God, I've said honestly like fucking 20 times. Honestly, this podcast is not only, storytelling, occult tidbits, or this and this and this and this. I've said that so many times today. Sorry for that. But it all comes around to this one quote that I posted after Nam by the philosopher Lucretius. Okay? It says, the generations of living things pass in a short time, and like runners, hand on the torch of life. I posted that quote, and not a lot of people responded to that, which is totally cool. But it meant a lot to me, especially after Nam. And what it means to me is that, what are you passing on to the next generation? I could die today. On the way to this other podcast I'm recording today. Doing 2 podcasts in one day. I feel like Joe Rogan, thank you. But what am I passing on to the next generation? Music is music. And guess what? Music gets deleted sometimes. That doesn't last forever, unfortunately. It used to when CDs were around and cassettes, and they're still around. I know, relax. But what happens when there are no more CD players? What? Streams? Cool. What happens if the internet gets taken down? What happens if I'm gone and Bandcamp gets taken down? What happens? Is that going to live forever? It's going to live forever to the people who heard us and listen to the message and listen to my message that I sing about in all these songs. And if you don't get it, it's okay. I write these songs purposefully to be write these songs archaic on purpose, because I want the language to be not only true to the language itself. I love using old language or old tongue when writing, because I mean, like I said earlier in this podcast, I'm listening to a song, fuck this pussy. I'm like, okay, cool. That's beautiful. You have this beautiful woman singing over this 15-second beautiful beat. And, I hear that. I'm like, come on, man. This is what people listen to now. And I sound like an old fuck, but even in death metal, man, like even in death metal, the imagery, it's a little bit extreme, but at least it paints a picture with words. It's not so direct, makes you think a little bit, fantasize a little bit. Everything now is right here, right now. Now. Here's the song. Now you got the idea, blah, 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 blah. And it's just kind of a bummer. So, I asked you guys, what are you passing on to the next generation? Because I'm curious. Because right now, all I see is just an idea. Everybody fucking goes to the idea like fucking sperm to an egg. And maybe one person will take that and say, no, it's this way. Thus births another idea, and everybody fucking goes to that, and blah, 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 and then it dies shortly after. So what in the long haul are you contributing to society or to the next generation. I don't know. I'm making my contributions, so hopefully you guys are making yours. I know I've talked quite a bit and we're pretty late into the podcast, so I think on that note, I'm going to head over to some questions. As always, guys, please submit your questions. Every week I ask my socials for some help, or I ask you guys if you have any burning questions, because if you guys are DMing me questions, I'll just give you like a short answer, to be honest with you, because a lot of the times I'm trying really hard to concentrate on being an artist versus social media guy, which is damn near impossible. So usually when I get questions, I'm just kind of like recording or doing something. I'm like, fuck, I don't have time to do this. So ask your questions and say, I've got a question for the podcast, or when you see me ask, fucking respond. And I'll answer in a nice way, what you guys are wondering about. So this week, out of both weeks, I've collected at least 2 questions that I thought were really good for the podcast. The first one comes from the Pied Piper of Crete, Mr. Al Slager, one of my closest friends. He simply asked any cool products from Nam that you are interested in, or anything cool at Nam. And to quickly answer that question, I saw a bunch of new guitars from ESP that I really, really had my eye on, and that I really, really want to get my hands on. Other than that, another cool thing I saw was this power amp from Seymour Duncan. That was really cool. It's a brand new version of their Power Stage, I think it's called. Might be the 200 or 250, I'm not sure. It's a power amp. Also has cab impulses built in, which would be really good for me, being that sometimes my back, to be honest with you, and I don't have a tech anymore, unless anybody wants to volunteer. But, my back can't handle loading cabs from my little studio to, let alone the car or van or trailer, all the way to, let's say, a venue, especially a venue with stairs. Fuck that. So a lot of the time I like to just go direct into my Line 6 Helix, and it has some impulses on there, but it would be really cool just to run it from the power amp. So other than that, I saw a bunch of stuff, and to be honest with you, it's kind of overkill, like on my senses. But the biggest thing I was excited about was Universal Audio's Luna recording software. So it's a new DAW. I'm really excited to see where that goes. I'm hoping maybe it'll be a contender against Cubase or Pro Tools or even Reaper. They had a beautiful display, a lot of hype around it. Not to mention Universal Audio is a great company, at least from the outside looking in. Any people that have any experience with them, feel free to drop a line and let me know your thoughts. But honestly, that was, for me, being kind of like an audio nerd, hobbyist. I was really excited to see a new DAW come out, and all the hype around it was really fun. They had like I don't even know how to explain it. If you guys want to see, check it out on YouTube. Check out Luna Nam 2020 or Luna DAW, DAW, and I'm sure you'll see a bunch of stuff on that. But again, nothing too crazy. One of the cooler, I guess, displays I saw was the Fender. Wow, what's his name? George Harrison guitar from the Beatles. I'm guessing it's a reissue of some sort, but they had a really cool display that was really, really trippy or groovy, man. But yeah, that's my answer to your question, Al. And the second and last question for this week, and I'll be able to wrap this up. I'm sorry, guys. It says from Joshua James Ludley, our buddy from, I don't want to get his band name wrong. I know it's Dark Agenda. I just want to make sure. Oh my God, this is not working. Sorry, guys. This is not like the Joe Rogan podcast where I have a Jamie to look these things up. I'm just trying to give people the shout out that they deserve. So, apparently I think he deactivated his Facebook, so I don't even think he's listening to this, or maybe he is. Yeah, it's Dark Agenda. I should have just looked on the band page. Dwee. He asks, Dark Agenda from Iowa, by the way. Check them out, guys. Really cool guys, good band, and holding it down for Iowa. So shout out to them. You don't see a lot of bands. I mean, Doppelganger's really solid from Iowa too, but Josh is really holding it down for like Iowa City and others. So shout out to you, man. He says, what are your thoughts on metal elitists? That's kind of what I talked about on the podcast. Metal elitists, go fuck yourselves. To be like, sorry, but go fuck yourselves. I know I'm like thinking right now, like I shouldn't have said that, but honestly, dude, if you're gonna sit here and let me explain this a little bit better. There's a couple black metal forums that are so elitist that if you post about certain black metal bands, you will get your post taken down, or you'll be made fun of, or you'll be banned because those bands are a little bit more popular or whatever. Perfect example, there's one black metal group on Facebook, and it's like you can't post about like Immortal or Behemoth and shit like that because they're too known, too popular, too mainstream. And it's just like, are you serious, dude? Really? I'm going to use a quote from Detroit Rock City to explain this to you guys easier, okay? And this is why I say go fuck yourself to metal elitists. Good tunes are good tunes. Okay? I'll give it to any band that I don't like. If they release a song I'm digging, I'll fucking listen to it. I'll support them. Even better, if the album coming later, if there's a bunch of songs I like, I'll actually be like, all right, I'm actually a fan of this band. Because by definition, that's what I would be. But to say that, I don't like this band off the get-go because they're too popular, too whatever, I would be missing out on a bunch of really good music because of my closed-mindedness, which, unfortunately, is the plight of our community. We're so wrapped up in this fantasy that we've closed off all doors to any, new whatever prospects of bands or whatever. And Serpents is a victim of such things. And that's why I have such a harsh stance against metal elitists, because a lot of people look at my past, in deathcore or hardcore even, or metalcore or whatever, and they'll immediately write Serpents off because, I was doing this band, and that's not true black metal. That's not cult. Even death metal people, it's like, if it's not slamming brutal death, blah, 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 I don't want to hear it. It's like, seriously? Nothing? You guys don't listen to anything else? I listened to fucking slam bands. I listened to it when I was a teenager, before you even fucking got into it, motherfucker. But at the same time, I was listening to, Andy McKee or fucking Prince or whatever, dude. Whatever. Fucking Future, Drake, whatever. Because there's aspects of those artists that I'm like, hey, this resonates with me. But to say, no fucking way, nah, man. That's not how you live life. And if that's the way you live life, when it's time, when it's your final time, when you're about to die, you're going to go, man, I really wish I would have tasted a little bit more out of life. Because probably if you're a metal elitist, you're probably the same kind of person that doesn't like certain vegetables or certain, I'm just making fun. But you guys get the point. And if you're a metal elitist, granted, I said what I said, but come on, man. Don't go fuck yourself. How about that as a pull quote? Metal elitists, don't go fuck yourself. Come to us. Join the fucking rest of the world so that we all together can rise up. Not above and beyond, the rich and famous, but let's try and rub shoulders with these people, right? Why not? Fucking, how many bands have you seen alone, Mr. Metal Elitist or Mrs. Metal Elitist, that their performances are flawless? I said Archspire earlier. I saw them not that long ago, and it's technical as fuck, but they were tight beyond belief. Wouldn't you love to see them on the world stage, or a band like that on the world stage? I would. But we're not going to get there if you're still sticking to your guns and holding on to something that isn't even worth holding on to. Variety is the spice of life, my friends. This is why I'm a hedonist. Okay? This is why I've always liked to taste a little bit of this and a little bit of that. And it's gotten me very far in life. Further than I can even talk about on this podcast, out of sheer respect. So don't respond to this. Don't comment. Don't bitch and moan about what I said. Just take a moment and try and take it in. I know your first instinct is going to be get on your keyboard or start swiping on your phone to fucking comment something nasty or whatever. I mean, by all means, go right ahead. But as a human, as a metalhead, as a musician, and someone who has experience professionally in this field, just take what I said into consideration. It'll all make sense soon enough, I am sure, if everything goes the way it's going. So, again, I don't mean to offend you when I said go fuck yourself, but at the same time, go fuck yourself with new music. Huh? Huh? See? You see what I did there? All right, I think I'm starting to get loopy. And again, I'm going to be doing the Nothings for No One podcast very shortly with Jason from Warforged and Bill Fay from WTF Customs. So I have a lot to say today, and I hope I have enough energy for those guys. Stay tuned on our socials to see when that episode airs. Not only do I want you guys to support this podcast by listening, rating, and subscribing to it, as I said earlier, but check their podcast out as well this week and, well, obviously, and beyond. I mean, how many metal podcasts are there, you know? Support them. And like I said earlier, big news coming tomorrow and this week for Serpents. So, you know, head to weareserpents.bandcamp.com for the vinyl pre-order CDs. Please, God, fucking just buy off these CDs and merch. Follow us on Spotify at Serpents US. Follow us on Facebook at We Are Serpents. Follow us on Twitter at We Are Serpents. Follow us on Instagram at Serpents Metal. And if you're just fucking overwhelmed and over it, just go to weareserpents.com and you will find all things Serpents and Andrew Mikhail related at some juncture of that time. So that's about it for the podcast. This week's featured band is Serpents because we have our pre-order going live tomorrow. So we're going to take you back to 2013 to a track that a lot of you probably already know and love, as that's what I hear. So without further ado, check out The Herald of Heresy off of the Born of Ishtar reimagined director's cut, reissue, whatever the fuck you want to call it, album. And this track will be on the vinyl as well. So enjoy it. And I'll see you guys for sure next week.